What is going on, everybody? My name is Michael Levan, and in this video I would like to talk about mental health for technology pros. Now, as we know, it's definitely not the easiest type of role to be in, depending on what you're doing in the technology space from a mental health standpoint. Now, there are a lot of other jobs that are like this, high stress, high hour style jobs. You got doctors, you got surgeons that are on call 24/7. You have lawyers, investment bankers. I mean, there are definitely a lot of jobs that are very high stress and, high reward, like good pay and all of that stuff, but it doesn't really make up for the mental stress that kind of comes with these types of jobs. So the one thing that I want you to think about is like you're not alone. There are other people that are feeling this way. If you're going home and, you sit in the driveway and you're like, I can't even go in and spend time with my family, or I can't concentrate on my family, you're not alone. You're definitely not the only one that's feeling that way. A lot of people are feeling that way, and quite frankly, a lot of people don't want to speak up about it. When things are going on in an organization and they're not right, or the culture sucks, a lot of people don't want to speak up about it because they're scared to lose their job. And if you speak up about it, you're typically looked at as, the problem. And being looked at as the problem is the problem, in my opinion. So what I want you to think about is, how you want your life to be. Because here's the thing, there's a lot of jobs out there right now. I would say, in the DevOps space, in the cloud space, in the infrastructure space, there are a lot of jobs. These jobs are high paying, and you kind of have your pick depending on, where your skill set is. If you're a beginner, it's going to be a little bit harder to find the job that you want. But if you're somebody that's like mid-level to senior, you kind of have your pick of the litter. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of jobs out there. Now, one thing that is super crucial here is a lot of organizations confuse important with urgency. Now, there's a really good book that I recommend everybody. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in quadrant 3, there are things that are urgent but might not be important. So, everybody's like, we got to jump on a meeting. This is super important, blah, blah, blah. There's a difference between urgency and importance, right? There is, when we're thinking about importance, we could be thinking about, hey, we need to be able to meet this deadline, or hey, we need to go to the gym because we need to keep ourselves mentally and physically active so we feel better. Things like, hey, the team doesn't know what they're doing right now. The role is a little bit confusing. Let's do some training on it. Let's get everybody up to speed. That way, the outcome of the work that we're doing is much better. But an urgent thing could be, we need to get this deadline done because somebody just made up a mythical deadline, and this is just the thing that needs to be done, and this and that, and hey, everybody jump on a meeting quick, and hey, this needs to be done. Everybody needs to work till 9 p.m. Hey, this, that, the next thing. I remember I had a job a long time ago that, we would be in the office till 1 o'clock in the morning because everything was important. But little did I understand back then was like, it actually wasn't important. It was just urgent. Now, in the 7 habits of highly effective people, the important things like training a team and making sure everybody's up to speed falls into quadrant 2. The urgent thing that isn't actually all that important falls into quadrant 3. So you want to be able to stay in quadrant 2 as much as you can. Things like going to the gym to make sure that you have mental clarity, making sure that you book time out of your calendar. That way you can actually focus on the things that are important, making sure you don't have a crazy amount of meetings. And there are ways to fix those problems. So number 3 here is the leadership team matters. I heard this quote a really long time ago, pretty much at like the beginning of my career. And they said, the fish rots from the head down. And I'll always remember that. The fish rots from the head down. And what does that mean? Well, if the leadership team is poor, if management is poor, this is going to trickle down to the employees. To give you an example, let's say that the leadership team, everybody's working 16 hours a day, and you're the one employee that doesn't want to work 16 hours a day because, number one, that's dumb. Number two, it's awful for your mental health. Number three, doesn't matter how much you're getting paid, you still deserve to have a life. But if the leadership team is working that way and you don't want to work that way, you're then looked at as a problem. Now, I've been studying cognitive science and psychology for a long time, and I talk about it a little bit on social media and stuff like that, and I put in different tips and habits and all that good stuff just based on my studies. And what I can tell you is working those amount of hours, number one, anything above 45 hours a week, you're pretty much like on autopilot at that point. Like, you're not getting as much done as you think, versus if you were well rested, you would get a lot more efficient work done. But that's kind of besides the point. When the leadership team and everybody is working these crazy amount of hours, you almost feel like you're forced to do the same thing because you don't want to lose your job and you don't want to be the problem. I'm here to tell you that you're not the problem. They are. You have to care about your mental health. You have to care about how you feel. You have to worry about what's being brought into, your home life and how you feel as a person. Mental health is ridiculously important. So if you have a poor leadership team, chances are you can do your best to try to change it, but it's going to be tough. So you might have to find a new job. So let's go ahead and break down what you can do for your mental health. And actually, one of the big reasons why I'm creating this video right now is because yesterday I definitely had like a little bit of I'm feeling very defeated feeling. And I typically, I get that maybe, I don't know, a few times a year, I guess. I just feel like that very defeated. But last night was a little bit different, and I'll tell you why. Usually when I feel that defeated feeling, I feel like crap, and then I'm like, okay, here's what I could do to change it, right? Like I kind of like feel, that sorry for yourself feeling for an hour or two, and then I'm like, all right, boom, I'm back. Let's figure out how we can fix this. But you could do everything in your power, but the reality is that with other people around, if they don't want things to be positively improved, it's kind of out of your control in a certain sense. Like you could do everything. Like you could ask for trainings. You could ask for, hey, here's how we can improve this. Here's how we can improve that. But if nobody cares, because again, going back to that urgent versus important thing, when a lot of people don't care about that stuff, that means that they're too focused on what's urgent versus what's important in an organization. And if you're the only one that's thinking about what's important, you could be having a really bad day where you feel defeated, and then you want to do your best to like get back on the bandwagon and say, hey, what can I do to fix this? But like in the current predicament, unless you go and you find a new job or you do your own thing or whatever, it might be difficult to figure that out, to be able to fix that, because there's really nothing you can do. So what can you do to keep your mental health good? Number one, here's the reality. You have to do your best to care but not care. As in, if you really love the space that you're working in, you will get emotional about it. And you will, if things are done the wrong way, you're going to get upset and you're going to get pissed off and you're going to be frustrated. But again, important versus urgent. If people are thinking about urgent versus important, there's really nothing that you can do. So you have to care, but do your best to not care. Now, an idea there is like, let's say you're trying your best to make things better at your job, but it's just not getting better. Well, you know what? Do stuff on the side. Write blogs. Do YouTube. Do freelancing. The things that you can care about and put that 100% in and be emotional about and all of that stuff, like the things that you can control, do it. Do it on the side if you have to. If you can't have that level of importance at work, again, going back to the important versus urgent thing, do it on the side. And there's a few other things, working out is super crucial. Work out 4 or 5 days a week. It'll keep you a little bit less stressed. Dress for work. We're all working from home, and funny enough, I'm actually in sweatpants today, and I'm always like dressed like for work. But dressing for work puts you in that mindset of, okay, I'm at work. Having a dedicated office. Now, if you don't have the room to dedicate an office to yourself, dedicate, a corner of your dining room or something, put a desk there, maybe put a blanket up, right in front to say like, okay, nobody can come in at this point. The blanket's up type of thing. Dedicate that piece, just to yourself and just to your work. And the other thing too is, and I think this is the best mental clarity that you can probably give yourself. Do what you can. Again, you can't control other people. There's this one quote that I really like. I think it goes something like 10% of what you can do and 90% of how you handle the situation, or something like that. So at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can do. What's happening around you, sometimes you have to just throw your hands up and say, okay, let's, let this thing crumble and kind of see what happens. And that's where, again, you can start focusing on your side stuff that you're doing, your freelancing, all of that stuff. You can really focus on other things that are happening around you versus attempting to continue to strive towards something that is not getting better. Am I saying to quit? No, you don't have to quit, but you could put your time elsewhere. There's some people that, want to put their time into gardening or to cars or to a hobby. And then there's other people that want that career satisfaction. So maybe they start doing a weekly blog or a YouTube video or something like that. You can put your 100% into something that you can control, like your own YouTube channel or your own blog, etc. But sometimes you can't do that at work. And sometimes you have to just kind of accept it, unfortunately. I mean, there's always the option to go and get a new job because, there's a lot of opportunities out there right now. But what you have to understand is it may always be like that wherever you go, depending on, if you know somebody that works at the place and, they recommend you and they say, hey, this culture is great. So with that, I wanted to make this is a little bit of a different video than what I usually create. It's usually technical or something that's very on point. This was more of like how you can feel, during the day. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like they're alone in this tech mental health unfortunate era that we're in. And I want you to know that you're not alone. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And of course, we will see you again next time. Thanks, everybody.